does.
I'd like to call a meeting to order. City Council on Aging, Thursday, March 14th, 2019. We'll do a quick round of introductions. I'm J.D. Miller, Chairman of the Board.
To the right, to the
Leslie
right.
James,
to the
board
right.
member. Janice Lemblon, board member.
Ellen Chwalowski, board member.
Kathy Clarkson, Transportation Coordinator.
Janice Desmond, board member.
Henry A., board member.
Joan Powers, liaison for South Shore Elder Service.
Caitlin Coyle, board member.
Lucille Sorrentino, board member.
Linda Case, Director of the Senior Center, Council on Aging.
Very good. So we probably have some multiple things to be passed out here, but why don't we take a quick look at
Do you have our minutes?
minutes from
Janice.
February
Thanks, Rhett.
and give that a quick look and just any Q&A and/or edits, approvals.
They look great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just see the one misspelled Joel's name, but I can update that.
We'll probably never know.
Well, does anybody have any questions? Gordon, welcome. I have a couple. Is the reference to the annual student dinner for March 25th?
It is,
Okay.
right.
So that's the Interact Seniors
Oh, yeah.
Dinner.
Yeah.
And is it March 25th or 24th?
March 25th, it's a Monday.
Okay. Just want to correct that, not May 25th, March 25th. I want to reiterate, I guess, and maybe you know this, so the tax write-off has been capped, at 25.
Actually, it went up to 30, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Even with the new rate, which I reported last time, right?
Well, the notes say 20, there were 25, there were 27 applicants for 25 spots.
Well, it says maybe, I think Linda had said she may need to tap it at the last meeting. I don't
I
think
did.
we knew 100% at that point,
Okay.
so.
But there are sort of 30 slots now,
He,
potentially?
he, in advance, okayed up to 30
Okay.
at the new rate of $12,
That's great.
which I did not include in this month's report because if there was no change. I thought I had done it last time.
That's great. So, and we have 25 that have applied, or are you?
27.
Okay, so you have 27 out of 30, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments, edits on minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 14th, 2019 as amended.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Very good. Then turn it over to you. For
Okay,
director
so
report.
soon. All right, hi, everybody. How you doing? Nice to have March.
I.e., nice to have February out of the way.
Or early March, I know. Just looking good now. It must be the time change,
That was,
the sunlight. Okay, been a busy time anyway, though the report may not reflect it because it seems short, but a lot has been, of course, tied up in what's been happening with regard to the project, so. Although, I did attend the legislative breakfast that some of you knew Leslie King and JD, so that was nice. It included a keynote address, so to speak, by the MCOA president, who we always love to listen to, Dave Stevens. He's great. He really has he's been doing this now for over 25 years. He is our lobbyist with the legislature, and a good one. So he talked primarily about the formula grant, maintaining at $12 per elder, which you know we have this year, but they don't want to see that go down, they want to see it continue. And also the SIG, which is the Service Incentive Grant, which comes oftentimes through the Executive Office or MCOA and provides money for programs through grants. So without that funding, they can't offer anything additional to us for programs and other opportunities we wouldn't be able to offer. So their line item is for 17 million, and the legislators now know that. They probably already did, but it was just reinforced with that meeting. And both Patrick O'Connor and Patrick Kearney were there. The Scituate Education Foundation grant is due at the end of this month. I may have talked a little bit about ideas. I don't really have a well-formulated thought at this point. Something perhaps regarding music, lessons or opportunities, or instruments, but more than that, I'm open to any suggestions or ideas that people might have also. We are, or I guess I'm working on a senior center brochure as well as a volunteer guide, and they're each being done by someone who's working in the senior text work-off program with us. So it's been helpful that we sort of have that extra help. They still come, she's been going through me, the one for the senior center brochure, but we'd like to have something to be able to provide at town meeting, which is not necessarily project related, but simply senior center information related, so we think it would be good. So Susan Kelly's working on that, and then the volunteer guide, Andrea, is working with myself and Lisa as well on providing that, which is great. We haven't had that before. Age-friendly, there's really not been activity since our February 19th meeting. We do need a date for the next meeting that I haven't set. And we are discussing, or at the last meeting, we discussed grant money or opportunities and ideas for promoting the initiative, for promoting the steering committee work, and ideas for a project, something that we could put, that the community would be visible to the community. We talked about a little bit of art, sculpture, something, maybe a contest, maybe including the students in that work, and the Art Association maybe, so all ideas are in sort of formulation mode. But we should have a meeting in the next, 3 weeks to 4 weeks. For programs, we are continuing with the sort of cafe lunch idea, the Super Tuesday, but we haven't had a lot of interest yet. Of course, it was winter to start, but that was the idea for the soup. So we are doing something this coming Tuesday as well, Irish-related corned beef sandwiches and potato stew. But again, and it was in the newsletter, and I guess I should mention that the newsletter was late in the mail. I mean, it was online on time, if not early.
it was, yeah.
It was here because where we get it sent to be distributed gave us the leftovers, which they always do. They sent it to Brockton, but for some reason someone in Brockton was perhaps new, didn't know the routine, sent it to Springfield instead, but nobody would know that because it just sits there because it's bulk mail and they have 10 days to get it out, and maybe they didn't know who we were. So anyway, finally, we had too many people telling us they hadn't received the newsletter, and Jill did get into it, and that's how we found it. Which is a shame, but anyway, so some of what's in there for early March, people didn't know about. The memory training, still doing, have 2 more scheduled now, which you'd see in the newsletter, one beginning March 28th and one the end of April for 4 weeks each. Our Parkinson's support group had 15 people come for the very first one. Now they already have a network, and the facilitator that has volunteered to do this for us is also doing the one in Marshfield and the one in Hingham. But they really seem to want that many opportunities to get together and to hear that information, so that's great. So there's another one of those this coming Tuesday as well, the 2nd. Our float, we're doing it. We have the truck, same truck, more or less same size at least as last year, so we do have the Brown Brothers playing. We do have our float structure to be assembled onto the truck to my left. We have some postcards that we just decided this was a nice way to say hello to people, maybe give something out. So we have candy kisses in this postcard, which is the logo, but with a little variation, the word community added to it, and then Senior Strong on the back with the dates for the public information session. So it's kind of a nice way to say
Great
hello.
opportunity.
So we have some of the friends and other older people, seniors, part of the community walking with us to give those out. We welcome anyone who would like to and who may want to be on the float, assuming we can still get the chairs sort of secure as we did last year with the help of the truck drivers. So we didn't lose anybody last year. We're 7th, we're early in the parade too, which is good, I think.
That's a good.
Yeah, we'll have the van as well, so if anybody's tired, they could use it, but it's also good visibility, I suppose, for the Council on Aging, and, yeah, we're excited. Upcoming, so the intergenerational dinner and game night that we have been doing now for a few years is March 25th. So the same students that come for the monthly tech time that have also helped us deliver the sand buckets to seniors are, you know, they have always been involved in the dinner and game night. Sometimes they've even come and made the dinner, or their mothers have made the dinner, and they brought it in. This time, I just decided it's a smaller group somewhat, and so we're gonna have CP's Pizza come with this truck and cook the pizza in the truck, and the kids will bring dessert and drinks and games. So it's a great array, and they really do enjoy it. And last year, there were a few women who came and taught a card game, so some of the students got involved in that, but otherwise they can either teach or familiarize some of the seniors with games they don't know or play.
Or vice versa.
We have an array, yeah, exactly. Also, a little bit of a new announcement. I think I might have told you that I was hoping this might be the case, but anyway, I did get informed this week that the Red Sox World Series trophy is coming. So it's coming to Scituate on April 3rd. So we have the, I know, that is pretty cool.
What's it gonna be?
The community building, or the harbor building.
Yeah.
It just sort of felt there was sufficient parking, I mean, who knows, but security needs parking, and then there's plenty of, I guess, hopefully parking for people to come, and it's empty. So in other words, it was easy for them to set up the trophy, they need a secure table, and then people can funnel through, have their picture taken. It's been here, I think, we had it some years ago.
Yeah.
How many World Series have we won now? But I remember when 2004 happened, it was a big deal, so anyway. That I don't know, someone asked. I mean, nobody, I mean, they're playing, so I like the date because they've started playing, but it's before opening day in Boston, so anyway. And they're coming from Worcester, so they do have 2 in one day, but he was very nice about deciding they could come here as well. So it's at 3 o'clock, after school. We'll alert the schools,
We should
we'll,
bring some of those postcards.
yes,
For that
yeah,
event.
we can have more, yeah. we can
I just
have
need like a be a different crowd of people.
Yep, absolutely. So hopefully the whole community, I mean, everybody should come.
Little league
Yep.
teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Make a list. Yeah, we could use help promoting, no doubt. So it is a great community event, but nice that it's coming in through us. The health fair is on Thursday, May 2nd this year. It will be at St. Mary's. And then I have, you know, sort of a rundown of the senior center project, the community campus senior center recreation facilities project. So I don't know if anyone needs to be filled in on some details, but sort of working from the Valentine's Day, February 14th meeting that was here with the BOS. After that, they move us from the April town meeting warrant to a special town meeting on May 13th. I did meet along with the architects, engineering team, the OPM, with Kevin Kelly and Bill Sheehan from the town. So Kevin was going out for some disability, and our IT director Dawn, has left. So we wanted to meet with them before they were gone and not available. So that was a helpful meeting, outlining a lot of the details associated with all of the infrastructure, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and data IT. So that was productive. The architect presented plans to the PBC on February 26th. So at that time, the Public Building Commission had to rescind their previous approval of the earlier project and then vote also to approve the new project, which they did. A concern was brought up at that time about access and egress with the proposed new entry and exit, which is two-way entry and exit at the very corner of the property, actually coming into the stone wall.
Off of First Parish.
Off of First Parish. And it was a valid one, and also it sort of alerted us all to the fact that the original or the existing entrance was still being used and funneling into the new parking area proposed for the rec department. So that kind of alerted me too, that two exiting at the same time would be a problem. So with that brought up, they just asked the architect at that point to review that. And since I've learned that they've gone to a consultant on that, and that information won't be available until the next meeting of the Public Building Commission. So that will happen on March 26th. So we won't actually have that particular information resolved necessarily even as we start the public information sessions. But, the architect said that night at the time, that'll be worked out, that can be worked out. However it is worked out is yet to be seen. But that was not a big concern for them, even though it was for us. Okay, I did, just so you know, Gordon and Janice Desmond also came with me to the rec commission last night because they really hadn't sort of been looped in. They hadn't met again since the time we went before them with the architect and OPM. So it was a very small meeting. They didn't even have a quorum, but we could at least show them. I gave them illustration of the new sort of first floor, second floor of the gymnasium that's now been reduced versus the old one. And just told them what the scope of the project now was. I mean, Mara had been informed and had received the electronic file that Joel or the architect had presented, but anyway, the commission had not been informed. So we did, and we had a nice conversation, I think, and they are supportive. They're actually seem almost happy that, right now
less
it's
disruption.
Less disruption,
Yeah.
that's actually
Yeah.
what they made. And I think for them, it seems to provide an opportunity for phasing things in differently, especially what I learned at the architects meeting that I did put in the report, is that when they hopefully would build the senior center with the infrastructure for HVAC and everything that right now is in the B wing. So it was difficult with the earlier plan to phase anything because as soon as you took out the B wing, that was gone and they couldn't exist there. So now they're putting it into the senior center new, and they can set it up or configure it so that it could in future time bypass the B wing and go directly to whatever building the recreation department is at that point. So it does offer some more opportunity for that. Yeah, I did update the scheme to the Scituate Council on Commission on Disability, just because we'd gone before them with the old project and hadn't updated them on the new project, so I did email that to her and communicated.
But Linda, could I just mention that toward the latter part of the discussion that we had with them, and we were there for close to an hour and a half, I asked, I said, well, what would you like from us? And they frankly said, we would like your support and maybe even your endorsement of our field project. So I don't know if we're planning on taking that up under new business tonight or not, but, and then I said, well, okay, so maybe would you be willing to endorse our project as well? And they said they would certainly take it up at their next meeting, and that she thought they would be inclined to do so. And that once April 8th came and went, if their project was successful, they would, and they would be more than happy to worked diligently with us for the success of our project on May 13th, so.
Well, it's not contingent on that. They
No,
just need to
yeah.
get past that date.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, they're focused on it.
Yeah, I mean, they just have 3 weeks left to work on their project, so they really have their hands full.
Yeah.
And they're doing similar to what we're doing, talking with organizations and stuff like that.
Good.
Okay, and I am also on the agenda, like, for the PTO for the Gates Middle School for Monday night, and the Rotary Club on Wednesday night, though they've heard it before. They're pretty gracious, always inviting me in, but that's just to hear about any updates. So that's good, and then the other information is on these postcards about the public information sessions, but I think I emailed everybody. We know when they are, Monday afternoon, Thursday evening next week, and then Saturday, March 30th. Just to start, and then I think, and everybody seemed to feel, and we planned on it, I guess, doing it again before the May town, special town.
And with the Recreation Commission would come after
Yes,
their
good
town
point.
meeting to kind of voice their support.
That'd be great.
I think Maura's going to be there.
Maura will come Monday, she
Yeah.
wasn't certain, she couldn't commit
Yeah.
to the other dates.
Right.
I think once she's here Monday and speaks and shows her support, then we can carry that for the others at least. So
Mhm.
I said it well. So,
Very good.
yeah.
Okay.
So, next, we have Kathy
We
here.
have Kathy here, so we're going to turn
We
transportation.
could take a break from my voice
Yeah.
and let you sort of talk about what's going on with transportation.
I think
thank
it's
you for
going
being
well.
here.
Thank you for inviting me. I think it's going well. The drivers continue to be wonderful, including our newest driver, Ralph DiMaio. They're just fabulous. We're so lucky to have them. And I think there's been very few hiccups, and when they have been, they've been slight. And we're able to work most things out, but I think most everybody is getting where they need to go or want to go when they want to go there. So I think that we're just rolling along.
It's rolling on.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the number of drivers for is good for the part-time drivers, because when one is unable or out, we can usually cover it right down.
Kathy, I think last month, or we talked about cancellations, people canceling,
Yeah.
there's kind of a high, has that still been an issue, or?
A little bit less,
It
a little bit
seems
less
like
than February, but
Well, yeah, and there's a
Less
couple less
days.
rides.
Yeah.
I think it's related. People wake up in the morning and they don't feel well, or people's schedules change, or doctors call them and change their appointments.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just a matter of the process, and the most important thing is making sure that we get people where they need to go when they want to go there, or need to go there. And the cancellations, it's a little bit of work, but it's necessary. And most people are pretty good about canceling. We do have some no-shows, but the van shows up to pick them up, and then they don't, they forget they're supposed to go, or they forgot to cancel, or, but it's just part of the process.
We are going to be working on taking on a few more of the medical out of town. So right now we contract with, or we use as a third party, Social Community Action Council, which does a great job, but we pay them a fair fee for that, which we don't really recoup. So it does come out of the GATRA budget, and ideally, because we really do use that, and could use it differently, better, Frank thinks that he would like us to take on that. We are really the only town that uses GATRA funding that does that, that uses another third-party service for the out of town. So we'll do it in a kind of progressive manner, maybe start.
Can I ask a question? The out of town, is there time issues that like they don't want to be in Boston after 3?
There are
What time do you
Yeah,
make your
it's
appointment?
supposed to be between, the appointments are supposed to be between 10:30 and 1:30, meaning that they have to be out by like 1:15. Because Social Community Action Council has other responsibilities that they use the vans for, and they're not available. Now, if they can't be out by 1:15, 1:30, say they have a later appointment, they can go back in like Boston, for example, and pick them up at between 4 and 5.
Okay,
but it may mean that they have to wait for a while.
okay.
But most people are pretty good as at first they don't realize it, and I try to explain. But once they figure it out, you know, they get their appointments around 11, 11:30. They know that, you know, they'll be out by 1, 1:30.
Okay.
And it all seems to work well. There are a handful that struggle with that time frame. So I just try to coach them and
Yeah, that's
encourage
good
them
to know,
to.
making your appointment.
Yeah, but there is a window. Now, that being said, they also pick up one client at least, and actually occasionally another one that comes to mind. They'll pick them up and bring them to an appointment at 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And then they will go back and do whatever they need to do with their vans and go back and pick up, say, this one client at 10 o'clock in the morning and bring them home. So they're really flexible and they're really good and they do whatever they can do. I know there's one client they bring into Boston at like 5:30 in the morning to get him there on time for his like 8 o'clock appointment. Because sometimes the clients have no choice in scheduling their doctor's appointments, but
That's it.
you take what you can get and we do our best to get them there. We use volunteers a little bit recently for some things outside that window. We don't have a lot of volunteers. We don't, you know, use them very often, but when we really need them, it's nice to know that they're there. And they are as well, wonderful. And they're quarried and we check their driver's records just like the regular drivers and
Good.
try to work with the HR director on that, Mr. Clark.
Thanks, Ken.
Great. Anybody else have any questions for Kathy? Did we get a lot of snow out this morning? Early in the
We
morning?
did have one full snow day and one 2-hour delay. But everybody was pretty understanding, you know, they don't want to go out in the snow
No,
either.
right, yeah.
I only have a mile commute, so it's no big deal for me. But,
That's a good point to bring up, because our policy has been, and is.
Based on school.
Well, transportation is
Okay.
canceled if schools are canceled, but we've sort of held off, I guess I've held off in saying that we're gonna cancel the whole day if schools are closed, because sometimes it's not so bad. And sometimes we might have an activity or an event that, you know, would be nice if we could continue to have. But unfortunately, I think what we're finding is, that means phone calls, that means making a decision at the last minute, and that means not being certain and having our clients not being certain. So I think the easier is, and probably the better, is if schools are closed, that all activities are canceled as well as transportation. We usually just consider it a safety factor for driving. So I think I will probably, as the next winter rolls around, say that that's the case. I
Or
feel
the next
badly about that.
or the next snowstorm.
For the next
Yeah.
Although I do remember the April 1st snowstorm.
Okay, we're not gonna have any more.
Was that
No?
1997?
No, we are.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably difficult to go half and half, so.
I guess. I was hedging, you
Right,
know,
right.
hedging my bets.
Like, the snow's gonna
Sometimes you
stop
need to
at noon and we can
people
still
do
do
look
something
forward.
before o'clock, but,
I didn't want to say,
That's tough.
okay, sorry, you know,
Right.
we're out, but
Right.
it does clear up a lot of uncertainty, and that's probably more important.
yeah,
So we will make that change. All right, yeah.
Very good.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here. So for outreach, you know, you can simply see Jenny's interactions, numbers, kinds of things she's working on. So the largest numbers, fuel assistance. I will say that, you know, I asked her to become the co-facilitator for the 50-plus Job Seekers Networking Group, which is really a great program, a good initiative, something I think good for the town, good for the Council on Aging and Senior Center. But it is time-consuming, so she has been a good sport about doing that. She's gone for 3 or 4 hours, really, because it's at the library. It's good set up, helps the facilitator set up, follows up at the end, there's some networking involved, and does try to be present and talk with some of the participants. And again, we're continuing to get, really at this point, 20, 25, 30 participants coming. Many out of town, not all, and all in a sort of wide demographic from really 55 to 70 something. They have all. So it is good, but otherwise fuel assistance has been ongoing, and that's been a higher number. But she does, continue to get a lot of calls for housing issues and concerns, especially since the change in how they're processing applications at the housing authority. So it's not just Scituate, really.
They make
it's-
that change finally? I know we talked about that. So it's one uniform system,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So, we'll see how that works. It might be nice to have them come in and talk about it at some point, because it could be significant change. It's just that if someone wants Scituate, they may be offered Quincy or Hanover first, and they can only defer twice, and then they'll get placed at the, have to reapply, so to speak, they'll get placed at the bottom of the
Yeah,
wait
back to the
list,
bottom of the wait list.
which isn't very productive for them. And then for activities, so it's February, obviously there's not as much going on, but as you can see from Lisa's numbers, we still had 260 people attending various activities for the month, 700 signups, check-ins for various activities. So exercise has continued without, even when we've had instructors away, we have someone that's able to sub in for us, so that's good, we don't have to cancel those classes. I think the Valentine's luncheon was great. It was nice. It was fun because we had
Linda?
Linda Chuckrin, who is retiring from her post, so
Yes,
I don't
she
know if she's
is.
going to continue to do that, but luckily she plays the piano and sings, and she's really got a lot of talents. But it was nice that they came and that they brought lunch, and then it was a really delicious lunch. The Garden Club did also come for their seasonal centerpiece creation, and also, what did I just pass over besides them? I forget, there was something else.
Men's breakfast?
Well, yeah, that was here. We ended up having that here instead of Widow's Walk. She's just not been opening or really been available, so we did have it here. And that meant moving something to the other building and maybe canceling cardio, but those were small numbers, so we did decide that was worth it. I think they liked being here. It is nice to be able to, oh, I know. The movie, it was just, well, everybody's heard how good A Star is Born, so I'm not sure what more than that the draw was, but I think 35 people came to that movie. And sometimes we have 2 or 5, but 35, so that was great.
It's a good crowd.
I don't blame them.
Well, the choice of movies have been very good.
I will pass that on.
Please do.
Well, I will mention tomorrow at 12:30, correct if I'm wrong, we are having a little Irish talk, Irish tea and Irish soda bread, and a few members of the committee for the Sister City West Cork Coalition are coming. But then we also got a film that wasn't mentioned in the newsletter, so if anyone was thinking of coming to that, the Irish Pub film. It's a documentary, it's adorable, but it's based there, and the Irish Pub owners are interviewed, and they're all very interesting, iconic characters, and it's really nice. So that'll be offered if people want to stay and watch it here, so we'll have that too. That's new news. I guess that's all I have.
Okay.
That's enough.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Well, there's a question, if it's an appropriate time to ask it. Transportation, possibilities of transportation to the special town meeting, is that going to be an option to have the van available for people who might not have transportation? So as we get closer to it, we'll be able to make that.
I guess we
known.
could put that in the newsletter, since we know now, and we'd like it. Anytime, we've always offered, I don't know that we've always had the offer.
People take it up, yeah.
Yep, that's just fine.
Liaison reports. Social Elder Services, Joan, who's already passed out some new booklets.
Yeah, well, the February 5th meeting, Sandra distributes this, because they do private, they take private people now, and they also take insurance and all. So this shows the copay that they have to pay according to their income. So I just thought you'd be interested in that. So they're getting a lot more clients. because of that. Sandra reported that she's organizing a meeting to be held at with the South Shore Elderly Services of all CEOs who have protective service programs. Protective service programs is going through changes, so that's why
Oh,
they need
good.
us. They're working on having information and new announcements for the board to be done on the internet. So instead of sending paper stuff, which they do every month, they're going to be doing it on the internet for the board, so we can see what's going on. And Joe Caravan is the new advisory council representative, and he told about himself, about his work. He works with the Norfolk Sheriff Office, and he oversees senior programs, and he does programs with senior centers. I don't know if he's been here yet, but.
No. What's his role?
Well, he's part of the Norfolk Sheriff Office.
Right.
He's
But
not a sheriff, but he's in charge of the seniors program,
sort of a
all
community
the different
outreach.
programs, so he's new.
He's on the advisory
Advisory,
council.
Oh, he's new on the advisory for social.
He's new on the
services.
advisory committee, and he comes to the board meeting
I
and
see.
always gives us
Okay.
an update of
Okay.
what's going on.
Mhm.
And then March 5th, they always do a financial report, and then Mass Home Care is going through a lot of changes. And they had lobby day with a lot of people on May 11th. And they're doing a lot of staff training, working on quality, improving, ongoing training online, and also getting information as needed. So a lot of the things, instead of meeting someplace, they're doing it online, and they can go on and check on different things whenever they want. So that's a big thing going on. As the agency continues to grow, it's important to have the people working together and also doing fun activities. This is their workers. So they're trying to get them together to do, well, they had a photo contest, and they have different things just to get them together. And get
The elder
together.
services staff.
Yeah. They have a new improved phone system. And they felt that the government budget was favorable. And there's an increase of meals for Asian and kosher meals continue to grow. And they have like 100 Asian meals, I think. It's more expensive, but they're very popular. And then Betty Maxwell is new, she's a nurse when she was introduced, and she is the new director of the clinical practice. This includes clinical assessments, eligibility, nutrition, and that's why this is a new chart that they had put out, which is the organization chart. And then over in the orange is where Betty Maxwell is. And so they've changed some of the things. Somebody else had nutrition, she does that. She does customer service and clinical and protective services too, so she's new. But she's got quite a bit of experience, so I thought you'd be interested in that, their organization chart. Yeah, the community dinner is on March 24th at St. Luke's. The Irish stew, we figured people were probably tired of corned beef, so we're gonna have Irish stew, vegetables, and chocolate trifle. And then, this is a new book that I handed out, which is nice because it's spiral. And the other nice thing they did, they gave us, this is the other thing too, they now have this paper, which is to do with the veterans, because they do so much for the veterans. So each month there is something about the South Shore Elderly Services, and these are some of the workers.
Is that Otis?
So I can give it to you, because I got extra copies, I got extra ones. And then they surprised us by giving us each one of these, which has a
Calculator in there.
calculator and everything. Oh,
Very nice.
Just give you guys a bite.
so that was,
Very good.
yep,
Thank you, John.
okay.
Thank you.
Friends of Scituate Seniors, Elaine, you up?
I'm going to stand up so you can hear me. We've been fairly quiet in the first quarter of this year, which is not at all unusual for us, but we are starting to pick up again. We have been involved with meeting with Gordon and trying to get something moving forward as far as building a campus. And our next fundraiser is going to be April 6th, a spaghetti dinner at the Congregational Church. If you want tickets, you better get them quick because we're close to being sold out, is from what I'm being told. And that's usually a really fun night. And then we're working on our golf outing, which is June 14th at Widows Walk. 8:30 start time, which is the same as it's always been. We are already getting interest, already having people signing up and saying, I want to be a sponsor, I want to do this, or we need to get more golfers. I didn't say anything. So hopefully, because that's usually our biggest fundraiser, so hopefully we'll get going with that. And then we will be moving forward after we have passed everything at the May 13th town meeting and at the May 18th election, and then we'll really start moving on getting funds going for our new senior center. No, our new community center. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them, but as I said, we've been pretty quiet.
Very good.
We won't be for long now.
Very good.
John, I'm assuming you're hopping in for Karen? Yes? No?
Yes, I am actually. Any
What?
questions? Least said is the better. I didn't know if anybody had any.
Well, we'll give you, since we didn't give you anything else, we'll give you a candy kiss.
Yeah, I'll take that. But just here to answer your questions, I think everybody understands where we stand right now for our February 19th meeting, and the board's met and setting in motion a special town meeting for May 13th. And then, of course, the election on the 18th. So, any questions on
I
that?
was curious who, well, we were asking you about the recognition, who writes the warrant, who puts the language into the,
Board of Selectmen puts it in, but it's technically through town meeting and the town administrator. So,
okay.
This was a question that came up last night when we met with Rec, and they should be asking, I'm sure you're all asking. They said of the 1.2 that is assigned to improvements to the gym, is the article written such that if 1.2 isn't spent, that Rec will be able to spend it somewhere else in the building or in something? Obviously.
I know Warren Clancy had asked that question of me, and I said, we'll take a look at that. At this point, we have to be careful, because when you put in the article specifically as to what it's going to be spent for, it's got to be spent for just that.
Yeah.
Now, if it's put into the improvements to the Veterans Memorial Gymnasium, then maybe that's more global, and then you could think about spending it for various aspects. But obviously, clearly, it's for accessible elevator, bathrooms, and the roof. So I think it's going to be narrowly tailored towards that. I think she's looking for opportunities to maybe sprucing up paint, do a little carpets and flooring maybe. And if it doesn't happen now, that's something that the capital budget is able to absorb going forward. She'll have to put that into the queue, and we'll take a look at that. Or the town, I won't take a look at it. The town will take a look at it.
But you'll be so
I
sorry.
think that was a good call that we're not going April 8th, because, I mean, here we are, second week in April, and Public Building Commission isn't going to be meeting on this project until March 26th, so there's no way we would have been ready for April 8th.
Yeah, the
so.
timing was just not conducive for vetting and being able to get information out, as well as trying to get questions back from the public. And I just think, regardless of whether we're going to keep the original plan or not, it wasn't going to work. The other issue you run into is we had like 29 articles on the warrant. That's going to take a lot, and potentially a two-night town meeting. And as much as I resent that, it's a reality, and this is going to be a very heavily discussed article. So giving its own night, I think, is particularly important. I think it makes sense, given the fact that it's a big issue that the town has been dealing with for many years. So I think one night's, for the cost of doing it, makes sense. It really does.
Very nice compromise.
And I think putting it 5 days before the election You know, I really look at this and I go, you know, in the past it would have been April, and then you would have had to gear up for about a month, maybe 40 days. This has been going on for so long. People are going to have their decision made. And for those who go to town meeting, I would anticipate maybe you're looking at 10, maybe 20% tops. That's probably being very generous, who will not have their mind made up. And most of the people are going to decide one way or the other, right out of the gate. So, you know, as much as I say, there's been enough time to talk. I think we need to answer questions and vet anything out. I think people, once they see it, are going to be able to say, yes, indeed, I get behind it, I'll get behind it.
So just, John, segue from what you're just saying, it's, you know, certainly key, and Linda, you may have already dealt with this, but it's key for the Board of Selectmen to support this. Do you know if any of the board is able to attend these public sessions?
So,
Yeah.
I was here on Monday, to be honest with you. It got canceled, so, yes.
Yes, we have
And I
Karen.
understand that you have Karen and Tony lined up for the next two, and the 30th, I believe my calendar's clear, so
Great.
I'm happy to attend as many of them and explain anything to people.
Great.
And I think certainly I have as much as anybody on the board knowledge about this project, the projects and as a whole, the history of it.
They have you.
Thank you.
Aside from that, anything else you want to?
I know,
Anything else about the town you want to know?
What else is there?
Anything that you guys are on your plate?
Anything that's on our, what's
Yeah,
that?
anything that's seriously on your plate besides this project that we're near, is near and dear to us?
You know, I mean, I think town meeting's the most important right now. People want to talk about water, it's well under control, under hand, we understand the nature of it. I think there's misinformation out there, but it's always a question. If anybody has any questions, please feel free. I'm happy to talk to anybody and explain it.
Is something actually on the town meeting warrant for water, or it's
Well,
just something that's going to come
Well,
up?
I'm just saying in general, I think you're asking, if you're asking specifics to the town warrant, there is, I believe, it's going to be with green sand filters for our wells, which the manganese comes from the wells. So if we're able to extract through sand filters the manganese, it doesn't get into the system, doesn't get in the system. It's not going to create the sediment so that when there's a rush of water, it's not going to be there to disturb it and create all that brown water. So right now, we're water treatment plant's offline. We have 2 temporary sand filters in place for 2 of our wells. And at one of our recent meetings, we had the numbers, actually, I think it was the last meeting, but the numbers were .006 and .005 or something to that effect. And what's of concern is when you're at like .03 or 6, I think it is. So we're well under it. And what's great is filters work, which means we can use the water. So those are temporary filters, so like it's a good indicator that it will work. The question is the cost to put long-term permanent ones in, but the town will figure that out.
It seems like problems that, bless you, maybe that's just me.
I think, you know, John,
I haven't heard a lot of complaints.
I haven't either, and I think
As
there'll be a water main
Last
break,
August.
like we've had a few water main breaks.
Yes.
Not on town property, but on like the Millboard.
Right.
That's private property, so we end up going to fix it. When it happens, it hasn't really created that disturbance in the system. The ones that created the disturbance in the system tend to be down in Sand Hills. We've had a few others in some other neighborhoods, and it's pretty much localized when that disturbance happens. But the summer is unique because you get an influx of 10,000 and more people. And so when that call comes for the water, it draws it. And that's what generally you find a lot during the summer, it's when the complaints are. Plus, what also happens is when we hit the wells, it hits a certain level where there's a lot more manganese, the level where you're pulling and drawing from. So it's kind of like a perfect storm, if you will. But I think, you know, at the end of, like I said, pipe replacements are in place. They're going to be opening bids if they haven't. They'll start in April. Once the snow and the freeze is done, they'll put out the pipes. The remaining 2 miles. Ice picking went really well, so we're going to be doing that in May and April. And the water flushing stills, we have the template to be able to do it, but the concern there is adequate water to be able to use to flush, because you're wasting water. But anyway, that's, you know, obviously a major concern.
Okay.
Yeah.
and then the fields. We'll see how that goes. That'll be interesting. I think there is an article on, it's a private citizen's petition for a complete moratorium on water. And that's a little disconcerting because it's, unfortunately, it's presently constituted, it's illegal because it's discriminatory. But it also begs the bigger question, which is if you have a complete moratorium on water, you create a lot of problems for the town.
Water
And
or
it's not,
building?
what's that?
Is it water, is it building or water?
Water. They're just
Connecting?
to any subdivision, any type of housing, whether it's senior housing, like the proposed senior housing behind Central, that would be shut down. Anybody who has their water rights now can tie in. And my reading of the article is that if you wanted to build a house across the street, yes, we'll let you tie in, but you can't do that. If you're gonna put a moratorium, it's on everybody. And I'm not sure everybody in town wants to have a moratorium for any building completely. But the issue is, I think the other problem I have with it is, people are fearful that we have no water, and that's absolutely wrong. It's the conservation aspect. If you go from January to December, there's adequate water. It's just that it draws down in the summer, so we have to be more conscientious of conserving it. And sometimes people don't want to do that because they want to be able to do their things. And I just think we can be better at doing just that. And of course, then they complain, well, you're adding new units. Well, we have adequate water for it. It's just, you got to be a little bit more conscientious of it.
I think the rebuttal to that moratorium post talked about the economic issues surrounding the moratorium, and I thought they were spot on, and the fellow made a lot of sense. You have to think about that. Put a moratorium on.
Then no one can do anything.
No one can do anything.
Right.
People who want to move here or want to come here, build here, or it's all kinds of strain on the system.
The other thing I said to the proponent, and I felt like the proponent misinterpreted the reason, the justification, that he seemed to think that you're all about the money, and I'm like, no. But when you put a moratorium on, you're also, when we budget, we're not budgeting on money we have, it's an expectation of money you're going to receive for your taxes. So part of that is new growth. So there's about $600,000 that we're anticipating through receipts and permitting that we're going to be anticipating as a part of your budget. So when you decide to put a moratorium on it, you're basically saying that new growth is not going to be part of your budget, which means everybody across the board is going to be impacted by it. And I'm not really sure that people in Scituate realize the impact of that, because that means, and let me just stop there for a second. If we were in dire situations, the board would, and myself included, would put something moratorium to stop on everything. But before we get to that stage, which we're not even remotely near, I don't want people to get this kind of idea that the sky is falling. It's not. But I feel that the article gives that impression. So anyway, we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see. It's a lively town meeting.
So on the general questions, any news on the sewer in North Scituate?
You can ask me.
Well, you know more businesses are closing.
I just heard that, it's funny, I just had a discussion with the Ruth Thompson about this, because it's coming out maybe in today's newspaper.
Today.
Maybe it's next
Today.
week. So maybe today's, I don't know. So my concern, let me get into your question. The answer is, there has been discussion. The town administrator, I talked to him this afternoon, met with the town administrator of Cohasset. So I went to a meeting about a month and a half ago. There was a joint meeting between Hull, Cohasset, and Scituate. And at that meeting, it was over at the Lightkeeper's house in Cohasset Harbor. EPA was there, DEP, and all the stakeholders, if you will, for these two communities. Hull has capacity for sewage. They have 3 times, so I think they have 3 million gallons per day is what they're capable of doing. They're only putting in 1 million gallons per day for Hull. Cohasset has need to put its sewage, if you will, into something. They have to put it through their treatment plant. They don't have enough room for it. And a lot of it is sensitive towards the Gulf River, around Border Street and South Street. And DEP is coming down on them saying, you got to do something because the levels of the nitrates in the Gulf and that area are too high. So they need to do something. We also have a major need, North Scituate, Minot, and frankly, if things were to go the way that I envision and the rest of my board envisions, we could actually put in another 2 phases. So not only would you get Minot, North Scituate, you could go down Country Way all the way down to Arbor Way and sewer that whole area, which would be phenomenal for all the residents. So the numbers came out. Hull wants a decision sooner than later, like in the next month or 2. Cohasset found that the numbers for them to connect, which would be a pipe going up 3A, would be around, I think it was 35 or 39 million. For Scituate to connect, it would be 59 million. And I know that number because I...
Are we connecting to Cohasset?
So the idea was to connect through Cohasset, 3A to go up, I think it's called King Street over Forester Street or something into Hull. Cohasset did not necessarily want to spend the money. Part of the problem is if they get sewage, then it opens up a lot more development. And I have a hearing, I've talked to different people and they don't want necessarily more homes built in their town. So if that doesn't work, which it sounds like we're going to find out shortly, I had hoped to hear it last month. I'm not sure the next month or 2 we'll figure it out. The second option is that they would wheel their sewage to Hull, that's Cohasset. We would then take just North Scituate and wheel that over to Cohasset. So there is a possibility for a smaller area, North Scituate in particular, that would, and that's the village, to maybe move sewer in that direction. So if the first one doesn't work, then we're going to look to the second option, which is good for North Scituate in the village. So it's an ongoing process. Unfortunately, my hope was that we'd have the first option and maybe have that kind of drawn up and move into it in the next 5 to 7 years and get it done. And even though those numbers sound large, the state would probably give you like a no-interest loan is what they're looking for, because the state and federal government wants this to happen. So you could put it into a betterment, and while it may sound a lot, if you were able to have sewage for all those communities, or those towns, those homes in those areas, those neighborhoods, it would be a huge win for the town. I just wish Cohasset would really seriously consider the first option, because it would benefit their town too. So you mentioned other issues, that's the other issue that certainly we're looking at. And if that happened, that'd be really good.
No, I don't know if you can say, tell us it. Jamie's, you know, they have the sign there showing they're gonna build, but there's no activity.
So, and I won't keep everybody because I don't mean to take you away from the thing. But Jamie's is gonna come before the board shortly, so that might be keep your ears tuned. I think the town administrator, another board member, and I are trying to figure a way to make sure that maybe it can happen, okay? But to your other point, the closing of the business, it gives me pause to be concerned, and I share this with Ruth Thompson, and that is, a lot of these businesses, unfortunately, are not doing well in their family. And my feeling is it's not necessarily due to sewer. Wilbur's closed. It had nothing to do with the sewer there. It had to do with people going there. And I'm concerned because I think a lot of people are actually using the online services of Amazon. And I've got the company that's in Boston that you can get a lot of stuff from in box stores. What's that?
Wayfair.
Wayfair. I think a lot of people are using that. And, you know, it's not the restaurants, because people like to go to restaurants. And it's not your services, because people will go to the realtor, or people will go to the, barber, or the hairdresser, or the gyms. It's the retail. And I'm wondering if we're in a different time right now where retail's not the way it was 70 years ago, 50 years ago, even 20 years ago or 10. It's changed dramatically, and I think our image of what we think a village and downtown should be, it's not working. And I think that's the thing that we need to focus on with North Scituate. When it gets sewer, and it will, it's going to have the overlay district, which is density for condos. And you could have that whole area built out. Now, I say that because everybody complains about Greenbush with the apartments, or Greenbush with the Drew Company, Greenbush with water. Well, that's what's going to happen in North Scituate. And it's not going to be this idyllic kind of like little retail place. It's not. That ship sailed. It's condos. So you want that mixed use and what we call smart growth with transportation and business and living there. But it's a different vision, I think, because Front Street has had the same issues. And Hummerock, poor souls, they have not been successful with their overlay district because no business goes down there because you got 4 months a year to get people to go from Hummerock. And I always say the other thing I find is, I look at Sandhills General Store, and that's in my neighborhood. It was a very borderline store that could barely keep its head above water. But then somebody bought it, and they marketed it, and they're very successful. I'm not sure how the profits are, but it's certainly successful in that it's, people go down there to revitalize the community. And I say that because I'm like, I think that really is the focal point that we need to focus on. How do we get people to get out of their house and go to North Scituate and go to the businesses there? Because I just found out another retailer store, I don't know if it was the wine store closed or is going to close. And then I saw Mona closed, Wilbur's closed. It's a major problem, and so,
Yeah, the bank on the corner is.
the bank closed, but the bank down here closed,
Yeah.
and then they put their ATM in, and I'm like, so I think, you know, my vision of it is that as the town can do two things, and one is, it's got to provide the vision to the developers of what we want and what our expectations are. Putting growth and putting development closer to the street, creating more of a Newberry Street feel where you could have some tables out so you don't put them directly on the street, parking behind, and then try to encourage them to, you know, try to encourage businesses, and I think you're going to look at services, more or less.
I want to say
But the
Jamie,
traffic,
sorry, I just want to say, Jamie's, a lot of us went to North Situate because of Jamie's. I mean, you know, then you browse around, but Jamie's was a big draw
Yeah.
down there.
The traffic, everybody said traffic decreased so much since the Jamie closed.
Yeah. Well, it's, hopefully it will be coming back, but, you know, the danger of that is the draw is one business. The downside is if the business goes under or decides to close, you really need to have a few cornerstones for it. But anyway, like I say, those are the focal points, and I suspect, you know, these are issues that have been going on now for a number of years, and hopefully the board going forward will be able to help out and assist in some capacity in a meaningful way. Other than signs aren't going to make a big difference. And the fact that, you know, the streets aren't plowed or the sidewalks aren't shoveled from the storm, it's not going to make, one day it's not going to make a difference, but, you know, there are other things that make more of a long-term impact.
John, real quickly, I don't want to hold it too long, but and this is relevant. The main, I'm going back to the campus. The main issue, if you will, that I hear right now is that you're kicking the can down the road by not addressing gates. I'd like to know what your response is. My response is that it's going to give the town some time to look at and try to figure out what can be best done with that property. And maybe some private people come in working with the town. So I don't see it a kicking down the road thing. I don't see it being a bad thing that Gates is not going to be utilized, or let's say the B wing is not going to be utilized right now. I think it's going to give us time to figure that out.
You know, if as much as you're going to say, what are you talking about? I like this building. I like this building because, as I said, Sue, this one right here.
What are you talking about?
I like this building, and let me explain why. Because it's one of the oldest schools in the town of Scituate. And you know, we talk about Gates and how Gates should be preserved because it's 1916. This portion here out was built in 1840. The rest of it was added on for the fire station in 1820. It's an old building, okay? If you peel back all some of the ugliness, you begin to realize, like the building across from my office, the actual brewery, which is an old schoolhouse. It's charming. And, you know, there are pictures, postcards where you can see, you know, kids coming to school, crossing the bridge down there. That being said, there are some buildings you say, just tear it down. Police station, for example, you know, maybe town hall. I think, you know, when I look at Gates, the high school, all around called the high school, the old high school, it has a lot of charm. And I walked around through it like 5 different times before I finally changed my decision, because I was thinking, there's some charm, you can do something here. Once you tear it down, it's gone, okay? You can't bring it back again. And sometimes in this town, we've torn down some old buildings that, in retrospect, historically, we say, I wish we'd preserved them. I don't see us kicking the can down the road. I see it as being a decision to see, are we gonna go back to the plan that the board said back in 2011? Town hall, are we gonna look at it for maybe senior housing? Could you maybe come up with something unique? Maybe. But you can always tear it down. Yeah, the cost might go up, but the value of it historically to people, I think is more important right now to see if we can save it and do something along the line. What's been kicked down the road has been building a new senior center, building a new Scituate community campus, building a multi-generational center. And you know what? I think a lot of people who want to deflect the real issue will focus on that. And my attitude is, there's only so much land in town that we can actually put a public building on that can actually work and be functional. This is the land that's the best. And the location that the actual senior center is going to be built on is the original town hall, which was built in 1849, torn down in 1959. It's on the exact same spot. It's the center of town. So I see no other better spot than to build the senior center at that location. And as far as the B wing goes, we're giving it a little more time to figure out if the town can actually use it. And if it can't, from a financial standpoint, or practical standpoint, you can always tear it down. It may cost a little bit more, but at least you're trying to see if it's worth preserving.
Yeah.
And that's my feeling on it. For those who say you're kicking the problem down the road, I'm like, that problem became a problem 2 years ago. This problem became a problem 20-some odd years ago. So I'm not really worried about the 2 year, because you know what? If you're going to say that's a problem that kicked, it's only been 2 years kicked. This one's been kicked for over 20-plus years.
Very good.
Good point.
Anyway, it may win, it may not, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, well,
Well, my argument with that is, I'm saying, put it this way.
I'm just thinking.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Well, to segue back sort of to where we've touched on in a couple of different ways. So let's review public information sessions. Again, we've got one scheduled for Monday.
So we do, and actually I have a conference call tomorrow with Steve, the OPM, and the architect, and, you know, just to sort of choreograph how are we presenting these, and I don't know if anyone has opinions on that, and I think maybe have some notes I didn't bring, but I did think an introduction by me, by anyone who's interested in doing that, maybe before the architect talks about the project itself, just because to put it in some context. So I don't know how detailed or how much we should say before that, or maybe before and after, but I think once the architect presents, then there are certainly questions that come up about that. We don't necessarily want the Q&A before he does that either, so that's just my initial feeling about that. I have some PowerPoint slides. I think I came up with this whole thing, or JD contributed, but the idea that the project, the summary for the project is that, you know, there are updates to the Veterans Memorial Gymnasium that the community loves for town residents of all ages who use it now, who would be able to use it better, because with the upgrades, people will have an elevator, there will be restrooms upstairs, there'll be a new roof, so those are the necessities. And then they hopefully can phase in other needs and priorities as able, as John mentioned, you know, through capital, through the way we usually do things. It does create a new now 16,000 square foot building. We haven't been saying that, but it is now. It's been increased. I mean, the veterans offices are 500 square feet, but with the flipping, with the changing, it's sort of
16 plus.
becomes 16,000 square feet.
Yeah.
I don't know if we start to use that. It's always been 15,000. For a community senior center, providing for, you know, day and evening programs, activities, social events that we've always said, you know, we needed and wanted under one roof, but also for meetings and community and private events that, you know, we can start to solicit really and encourage that people, it is available to them. And I did say that to the rec commission last night. I suppose, you know, if Mara is finding that they're having difficulty, then there would be availability of some, you know, space and rooms, fitness, yoga, you know, whatever they might do at night, which they right now do at the other community building. And then also maintaining all of the existing Gates campus resources and attributes including the Historical Society landmarks, the town green, of course, with future value added, because there are things we could put there, you know, whether it's a meditation site, labyrinth, or whether it's, Bocce is something that would be available to the community, the walking path around the soccer field we've talked about, there's all kinds of things. And then everything else is maintained, tennis, baseball, for some reason they think the soccer field's going, but that's obviously not the case. So we are next to it, abutting it, the parking lot comes up to it, I'm not sure what the space is, but anyway. And then the former school buildings for future use conducive to campus and multi-purpose setting. The only thing I say, everybody seems afraid to call it a senior center all of a sudden. I mean, it's a community senior center. I know everybody may have some different opinions about that, but many people don't mind it. I think by focusing, hyper-focusing on it, that becomes the turn off. It's not, you know, it's the programming. Some people don't even notice what it's called. I guarantee in Plymouth, the Center for Active Living is often called the Senior Center because it's easier. It's what it's always been called, and it's really about what they're coming for and the programming and the people. So, not to say that there wouldn't be, you know, if hopefully we get this and it's moving, then maybe things people want to call it, that's great. That's, I think that's a conversation, right? But
Yeah.
for now, we have to mention it because that's what it is.
Oh, you should.
That's what we've needed.
You shy
and
away
that's
from
what
it. It's
so-
Everybody knows it's gonna be a senior center.
That's what everybody's gonna call
I think it's confusing.
Well, it's confusing when we stop knowing what to call, and that's all I'm saying, is that, you know, everybody.
Well, this campus thing is though just
Yeah.
dressing.
The project.
Project,
Yeah.
And the fact that it is a multi-use
Yeah.
campus, I mean, it really is.
Linda,
Can we get a copy of that? Could you email us a
Yeah,
copy of this one?
and I have, I mean, I could put the PowerPoint slides up, you can probably just.
Just so I can read it and have it in my
Yeah.
headlines
Yeah.
when I'm there.
Yeah,
And I have
but-
some ideas for the front, the rationale piece of
Oh,
sort
good,
of, you know, why this is
Yeah.
a need of the community.
Good.
So I can-
good.
Could you please make sure Joel is aware, it came to light last night, that I call it the jungle gym area behind the gates
Yeah.
is not, there's no intention that Rick wants to keep that. So I don't know if that could be possibly a potential for more parking.
Mhm.
But they have, as they said last night, they have no, I walked the whole thing
Yeah.
today. It's a pretty sizable area.
Is it?
Yeah, it's probably, well, not quite this whole, but I would say 3/4 of this area. So I don't know if
Does
Joel's
it
under
touch on the
the,
property that we're using, or does it touch on the soccer field?
it abuts the soccer field. It's adjacent to the soccer field, but it's, you know,
Okay.
Rick has no desire to keep it. There's just a bunch of poles in the ground,
Yeah.
wires and stuff, so.
Yeah,
Make
they
sure,
suggested-
make sure Joel's aware that that's
Okay.
something that
Okay.
potentially,
What was it called?
It's sort of behind
Adventure
the
Park?
building, so you
Yeah.
can't see it from First Parish, right?
they refer to it as the jungle gym.
When Ditch closed, they moved a lot of the equipment up to behind the high school, which is
Mhm.
like the area next to the baseball field.
Okay.
Yeah.
They took a lot of the equipment.
Yeah.
So it's not being used and is sort of available maybe.
Do we want to take up the issue of endorsing or not endorsing the rec article?
The rec field project.
Rec field project.
Be happy to.
You know, they did address, they asked me, you know, if there was an audience, maybe some event coming up, that there would be enough people and they would like to come in and sort of discuss, describe their project and the importance and the value and the history of, you know, why it's needed, which would be fine. I don't really feel like I have the audience for them necessarily in the next 3 weeks. And I also don't want to put either them in a bad position or those who would be there, who, you know, may or may not react well. I mean, you know, it's certainly a private, personal thing, how they may or may not feel about it, but they do want that opportunity to address that. It's been something they've been needing and working on for many years, and they were always told that it would happen as soon as the other projects had been completed, much as we were. So, anyway, they just feel it's, and it's something that they have financially, fiscally sort of engineered, you know, that it's not additionally coming back to the taxpayer, that it's already covered by taxes they have paid now into the CPC fund. So, you know, certainly it's warranted and it's necessary, but it's just, I think, confused a lot of people in our demographic who have been waiting for this building to be proposed.
Let me make the motion, we do a discussion on it. I'd like to make a motion that the Council on Aging endorsed the Recreation Department article for the field,
Yeah,
field,
Field project.
the field
Town
project,
field project.
going before town meeting April 8th, April 8th.
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any discussion?
It's good PR.
Yeah.
Well, do you want discussion?
Is it, if anybody's, I mean, I don't have the details, so I can't.
I'm on that
Oh, okay. Oh, you are, on
Yeah.
the committee. What is it?
committee.
Or maybe John can help us, but they're gonna redo multiple fields, putting down synthetic turf, so it's reusable constantly as opposed to
They're
theoretically getting beaten up and then having to be replanted.
The football field is, the multi-purpose field is being replaced, but, the track is a mess, so it kind of, I think, snowballed. Replacing the football field, replacing the track, and the two fields, the baseball field and the practice
So the
field are
JV
being
field.
redone because there was no softball field on campus, and that's a violation of Title IX. And each new field is the equivalent of 3 fields. So you're not getting just a softball field, you're getting lacrosse, soccer.
Field hockey.
Yeah, so it'll be good.
And there's no net cost to the taxpayer?
No,
That's the
it's,
word for it.
because it's,
CPC.
She did,
CPC.
did you say that the money's there?
no, so the, CPC is putting up almost 8 million,
Oh, wow.
and then the rest is capital,
Who's putting up
capital
that
fund?
money?
Yeah,
CPC.
CPC,
Oh, nice.
yeah, so it would be no cost to that.
Good.
We've already paid for it.
Or we'll
You have to vote
continue.
again.
They're bonding.
Yeah. Let them know, something like that.
Yeah, but you know.
Funny enough, it had come up at the
Yeah.
FOSS meeting the other day, and Les Bob was there, and he was talking about how the library group, who was fundraising and promoting the library project back, however many years, had come to address the senior population, or a group at the senior center, and didn't receive a resounding support for it, because at that time they were probably a little bit disgruntled, so that was hard. That's all, that's the only worry I have, just because, but it certainly would be helpful for them to have an opportunity to explain what's gone into this whole process. Instead of it was more of a surprise and shock that I think people didn't know. But it is necessary.
It is.
I know they've been
yeah.
restricted.
If anybody has any
Anybody else
questions?
have questions?
I've sat through the presentation a couple of
Yeah.
times. It's pretty good.
Vote.
Now, do we?
Yes.
After we've had our discussion, we've got a motion on the floor, and we had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. When they write us one.
Yeah.
So do we have any other, does anybody else have any other questions, issues? I mean,
I did just want to know about how, I know, Gordon, you've been working on a flyer, and just understand if that was going to be ready for Monday, or,
Monday?
yeah, for the first.
Oh.
Well,
Did Leslie get the
so,
pictures?
you know, there's a line sort of between what we want to do in terms of informing the public about the project, so that there's no confusion or misinformation, and campaigning, so to speak, for the passing of the project. I think, I'm not sure that has a place in what we're doing yet, I don't think, and
It's not
we need to
critical that it be
able-
ready for Monday.
Yeah.
No, no.
So,
Reason
and we
for
can
that.
change as we move forward. I mean, I also anticipate we'll be handing out some things at town meeting. When people literally are walking in the door and giving them, so.
and even that has to be done outside,
Right.
not inside. So I suppose if we haven't sent that to everybody, we do have an electronic,
There are sometimes there's handouts on major projects.
yeah,
They hand out with
Yeah.
your packet.
yeah. So we'll double check on that.
So
There's a
people know what
document,
they're voting on.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
true. that's true. So a project that would be helpful, just, yeah, these are the facts of the project.
I just
And
have-
John, you're going to introduce the warrant in May, you'll still be able to do that? Or,
Yeah, I'm gonna take the article in May, so I'll be the one advocating for it. With respect to anything that's a political, you can't be inside the gymnasium handing out anything. If it's authored from Council on Aging, that's different, because it's a town entity, but it's almost as if you're like a campaigner. If you know, a politician coming in, they're not allowed to come in the gym, they have to be outside the gym, both during town meeting as well as during election time. When you mention maybe a petitioner, private citizen, he or she may have a handout as a part of their petition, I could see that happening, but, because they're authorizing the article. But from a campaigning standpoint, you can't. And then when we have these informationals, if it's a town-sponsored informational, I would probably say at this point you can't. But, you know, I think with respect to the town information, there's going to be a lot of facts information that's going to be put forward, and then I suspect anybody who's campaigning for it would probably, it will alleviate what they have to do, presumably.
So something couldn't be put with like the advisory booklet, because I know sometimes there's the advisory, when you're checking in, they give you the advisory booklet, and then like maybe a piece of paper with, like when we were doing the, buying up all the land,
Yep.
there was like maps with.
Yeah.
So the answer is if the Council on Aging has a push piece or informational piece, rather, that can go with the advisory.
Okay.
If a campaign or a politician were to come in and say, vote for me, that could not go with the advisory.
Yeah.
So it begs the question, is it a campaign piece from a political end? No. If it's town authored, yes. So like when we hand out land purchases, you know, like the last one with First Cliff, that was an explanation because it was authorized through the CPC. So they explained what was happening. If that helps clarify.
I just have two quick things that I have. Well, I personally thank Caitlin for the article that appeared in the Mariner, but I'd like to publicly thank Caitlin for the article. This is probably the best thing that I've seen published in terms of bringing out information, not just information, but the need, why we feel that there is a need for this facility to be built. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me in the last, I just came out a week ago, and complimented on the article, and they said, this is really very well done. If you count likes, I think it had like 80 likes on Facebook, so that probably represents a whole lot more if people just didn't get the like button. But thank you, Caitlin, it was very, very well done.
Yeah, I'll just comment on that I have plans with Maud to put in a second letter about connecting the senior center project to the age-friendly initiative that we're working on and kind of laying that out.
Yeah.
And then have an idea, I'd like to get a resident to do sort of a testimonial type of piece about how the senior center's impacted their life. So anyway, it's my contribution to the cause. I don't have a lot of time these days. Thank you.
Very well done. And I said one other thing, and I'll read this. Due to the nature of the responsibilities and activities that I'll be involved with over the next several months, as related to the passage of the article at the May special town meeting to construct a new senior facility at the Gates campus, I'm required to resign my position on the Scituate Council on Aging so as not to be in conflict with ethics regulations concerning activities of town employees. And if you serve on a board, you're kind of considered a town employee. It's been a pleasure to serve the town with this appointment, and I will without doubt continue to advocate for the needs of our senior population. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you, seeing the community campus project become a reality. So, that's what
Well, thank you for your.
yeah, we are going to be successful.
Yes.
So now Gordon can knock on your door.
So they're gonna start calling you.
Right.
Put my hand up.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your move. That's a big move. So we appreciate it.
I won't be a stranger.
So Gordon, is this gonna be separate from FOSS, and they're gonna continue to do their role, fundraising, and
Yeah, FOSS will be primarily as we go on into fundraising, will be the fundraising arm.
Yeah.
Elaine, maybe doesn't know quite yet, but Elaine and I are gonna we have to form a ballot committee. And Elaine's gonna be the treasurer, I'm gonna be the chair. The ballot committee is only I thought it would be that we could accept, that we could be the fundraising arm. We're not. The ballot committee is only to report the money that we are taking in to pay for expenses that the ballot committee undergoes, signage and things like that, and monies that are paid out. And then after the question is addressed, May 13th, the ballot committee can just go away. And so at that point, then we just go into fundraising, and that will be, FOSS is a 501(c)(3).
Yep, they
So
are.
they will be the fundraising arm, so contributions that will be made toward the project will be through FOSS. And we'll be starting that effort up hopefully pretty soon, yeah. And, I think people will be generous. I've already had people come to me and say, let me know when you want us to start writing checks, so, we won't commit to a particular dollar amount like the library people did, but I think we can raise some significant money. And I think the town is looking for us to do that. I think that's kind of become the mode now, is for something, library did it, why aren't the senior people doing it? We'll do it.
Yeah.
And everybody
But it
would-
has to be separate from
every little
this,
bit helps, too.
has to be separate from this organization totally.
Got it.
So,
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other business? Caitlin, did you have something?
I have a bunch of,
The grant?
Yeah.
Or something else, or?
well, there's a grant that is due tomorrow, which we can't do. But,
It's always the way.
that bridges together, that's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So there's an organization called Bridges Together, which is an intergenerational organization that partners senior serving organizations and educational institutions together, and they train them on how to do intergenerational programming, and they have sort of curriculum that they provide and all of that. And so they currently have a grant, so their trainings usually happen in person, so they'll come out, for example, to the senior center, and they require that you have a couple of educators committed to the project, so usually it's teachers, and they have programs everywhere from preschool to high school and even college. So it doesn't matter, there's curriculum for all ages. So anyway, so they'd come out, they'd train the folks who would facilitate these programs, and then you're sort of bought into their, they have all kinds of, programs that you can then, within that intergenerational system be doing. And so anyways, they have a grant they have a grant to do this training online. That's what's due tomorrow. And so that would be.
And we're hoping it'll be delayed.
Yeah, I know the woman who runs this organization, and she's very concerned that nobody will.
It really ties into age-friendly, live well.
Yes, it's very intergenerational, and it's a great, they're national, they're Massachusetts, they're based out of Sudbury. So anyway, so the grant opportunity would be for basically us to apply to do any one of their trainings for free, but it would have to be online. So they're trying to move towards online training, or they're trying to pilot test that basically, and so you'd be signing up to do these trainings online. And so you'd still get people together physically to do the training together online and do the exercises together in the same room, but there wouldn't be a facilitator involved. So that's one option. So we can certainly talk about whether we know one of the things is we need, it has to be a partnership. So it can't just be us saying we want to do this and we'll find some teachers to help us.
Yeah.
We have to build a relationship with some educators to participate in that, which makes me think we probably won't make the tomorrow deadline, or maybe even not the extended one. But if we were not to do that, the cost of that program is $5,000 to have someone come out to do this training. And the idea is that they're training the teachers and they're training the senior center staff to do this work, and then they're giving you all of these different ideas and programs and tips, and you're connected to all of their other trainings and all of that. And
Do
so
they have to be teachers today, or can they be prior, in their prior?
Retired
So could they
teachers.
be retired teachers?
Interesting. I don't know. I think they can, but I'll ask. Because they do things with grandparents Like they have, the school-based programs or the school-connected programs, but they also have a separate, sort of set of programs for grandparents and for people who want to be grandparents, kind of thing. So I can ask about the retired teachers. So anyway, so if we don't end up with this particular grant tomorrow, I think there are other opportunities to find that $5,000 or to find some version of it. They have, so anyway, it's just,
It's finding a couple of people.
well, that we would need to do regardless probably, which I think would be a good,
I think it would be great.
not a bad thing.
But it's a matter of find out.
Yeah, and I have lots, there's all kinds of information I can share. I asked her on the phone, I said, so if I was gonna talk to a teacher, what do I need to tell them? Like,
Yeah.
what's the, and essentially it's that, basically what you're committing to is this training, and a commitment to a program, with a senior center, or that you'd be doing this. But the kinds of programs that you do, there's tons of different ones, in terms of storytelling and, they have all kinds of curriculum that you can choose from, so that's included. But anyway, I can share it around, and if and when I learn that the deadline has been extended, I'll let you know. And if anyone has any connections to schools or teachers that might be
Or
interested in it.
retirees,
Yeah,
or a retiree.
I would think you have a lot of retired
Educators,
educators,
yeah.
that participate in.
yeah, that's a good point. So, something to think about, but it would be kind of a age-friendly
Yeah, that'd be great.
kind of thing.
Another seat.
Could go to the Education Foundation.
Yeah, I thought about them, and I know AARP is coming out with a mini grants program that's in the ballpark of $5,000 for communities who are working on age-friendly stuff. It hasn't come out yet, but, so we could be thinking about that. And the other piece I mentioned to JD, and I'll just throw it out as an idea that I've had is, I don't know what the town green across from the Gates building, if there's ways, I can see, in terms of like finding some grant money to do some kind of walking path across the meditation, making it a little bit more, if that's gonna become the senior center, you got the library there, and there's gonna be senior housing there, creating, I know there's sort of the sidewalk around it, but there's not good ways to walk through it, like a crosswalk, and so you'd be kind of connecting the senior center with the library or with the senior housing, and I don't know what the regulations are about doing that, but that could be a really nice walkability, age-friendly, right in the center, you really connect, kind of create that center of town feeling. I know there's some benches in that green, but they're kind of in the grass. You have to walk through the grass to get to them. Super walkable for people with mobility issues, so that's just another thought. To look for some money, if that becomes something we can talk about, then I'm sure there's some grant money that would support that as an age-friendly
It
practice.
supports the synergy
Yeah.
of all the facilities that are within walking distance there.
Right. Because I know I think there's monuments there and memorials. I never even.
Was Memorial Day Parade.
Yeah. So,
Isn't that where they,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. So, just an idea.
Okay. Cool. Anybody else got anything? Silence. Do I hear a motion to support St. Patty's Day parade on?
Yeah. Please, wave to us.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Very good. Well, everybody have a good St. Patty's Day, whatever you do.
That was immediate.